Picture this. Two water bottles, same material, same size, same water inside. One sells for $20 at a roadside stall. The other sells for $150 in a store, and people queue for it, actively prefer it, will not settle for the cheaper one. No difference in the product. Zero. The only difference is what people believe about it. That belief has a name. It's called a brand. And here's the part nobody tells you. Brand isn't just for companies with massive marketing budgets. It is the single most powerful tool a founder, a creator, or a first-time entrepreneur can build from day zero, often with no money at all. If you've ever wondered why some businesses grow almost effortlessly while others with genuinely better products quietly disappear, this video will answer that in full. We're going to build a complete brand from scratch, step by step. Stay till the final slide, because the 90-day roadmap we close with is worth more than most paid branding courses. Let's start. Let's address the biggest myth in business right now. Ask most people what a brand is, and they'll point you to a logo, maybe a color, maybe a tagline. And to be fair, those things are part of it, but they are not the brand. They are the surface of the brand. What's underneath is something far more powerful. Here's the simplest way I can explain it. If your business were a person walking into a room, your brand is the impression they leave on every person they meet. It's the feeling someone gets when they hear your name, the instant association that fires in their brain before they've even made a conscious decision. Brand is reputation, but not reputation that happens to you. Reputation that you design and engineer intentionally. And here's what makes this so critical for founders. The brain is lazy by design. When people encounter a name they trust, they skip the evaluation phase entirely. They jump straight to the decision. That skip, that moment of automatic trust, is the commercial value of a brand, and it can only be built one way, through clarity, consistency, and time. This is one of the most important distinctions you'll ever make as a builder, and most people blur all three together their entire career. A product is what you create. It solves a problem. It has features. And it can absolutely be reverse engineered and copied by a competitor with a bigger budget. A business is the system built around that product to generate revenue. It can be replicated. Same model, different team, different city. But a brand is the belief system in the minds of your customers. It's what makes them choose you over someone who charges less and delivers more. And belief, genuine belief, cannot be duplicated. It has to be earned. Think about every famous business you've ever encountered. Their product might not even be the best on the market. There are probably technically superior alternatives. But their brand creates such strong emotional loyalty that their customers become advocates, almost like members of a movement. They defend the brand in conversations. They bring their friends. They buy the next product without researching it first. That is what we're building in this video. Not just a business, a brand that becomes a movement. Let me give you the economics of branding, because this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Here's the problem every business faces in the modern era. There are too many options. In almost every category, your customer can find 10 alternatives to you within 30 seconds on a search engine. So how does anyone get chosen? The answer is that the brain creates shortcuts to manage overload. A trusted brand name is one of those shortcuts, and it effectively eliminates comparison entirely. Economically, what does this mean for you? 1. Pricing power. When people trust your brand, they aren't just paying for the product. They're paying for the certainty that comes with it. That certainty has monetary value. You can charge more. 2. Reduced acquisition cost. Loyal customers return on their own. They don't need to be persuaded again. Every rupee you don't spend reacquiring an existing customer is a rupee that compounds into brand investment. 3. A referral engine. When your brand genuinely resonates, customers talk about it. That word of mouth is worth far more than any paid campaign because it comes with the endorsement of someone the listener already trusts. And 4. Resilience. When competition spikes, when markets crash, when a new entrant tries to undercut you on price, brand loyalty is the moat that holds. A business without a brand has only one lever: price. And competing on price is a race to the bottom that nobody wins. Now we get into the actual architecture. And I want you to think about this like a building. You can paint it any color. You could design a stunning exterior. But if the foundation has cracks, the whole structure eventually fails, no matter how good it looks from the outside. Every brand that lasts, that genuinely endures market cycles, competition, and cultural shifts, is built on 5 core pillars: purpose, positioning, identity, voice, and story. Each one reinforces the others. Skip one, and the entire structure weakens. Here's what I want you to do right now. Open your notes. Put these 5 pillars at the top of a blank page, because we're about to go deep on each one. And by the end of this sequence, you won't just understand branding. You'll have the structure of your own brand built. We start with the most important one, the one most founders skip entirely because it doesn't feel practical. But it's actually the most practical thing you can do. Ask yourself one question. Why does your brand exist beyond making money? The brands that create deep emotional loyalty start with why. Their core belief, their mission, the reason they exist that has nothing to do with the transaction. Then they explain how they deliver on that belief. And only then do they mention what they actually sell. Why does this matter? When your brand's purpose connects with someone's personal values, they don't just decide to buy. They feel like buying. And that feeling is what creates loyalty. So I want you to pause the video, seriously, and complete this sentence in your notes. We exist to blank, so that blank. Don't worry about making it perfect right now. Just write something honest. That statement is your North Star. Every brand decision you ever make should be traceable back to it. Positioning is about winning a specific battle in your customer's mind, and the goal is to win it so decisively that when someone needs what you offer, your name is the first, and only one they think of. Here's a counterintuitive truth that most founders resist. The narrower you go, the stronger you become. A brand that says, "We're for serious young founders who are tired of generic business advice," will dramatically outperform one that says, "We're for anyone who wants to learn entrepreneurship." Why? Because the first one feels like it was made for someone specifically. It speaks directly into that person's identity. They feel understood, and feeling understood is one of the most powerful triggers in consumer psychology. Use the positioning formula on screen and fill it in for your brand. This becomes your positioning statement, the internal document that every piece of content, every product decision, and every marketing message is filtered through. It may never appear on your website, but it rules everything that does. And think carefully about where you fall on the 4 axes. Are you accessible or premium? Mass market or deeply specific? Functional or emotional? Challenger disrupting a stale industry or the established authority? Your answers define your lane. The worst thing you can do is be ambiguous. Own a position, then defend it relentlessly. Now we get to what most founders start with, and most founders get catastrophically wrong. Visual identity is not your brand. It is the physical expression of your brand. It's the clothes your brand wears. And here's why that distinction matters. If the personality underneath doesn't match the clothes, people feel the disconnect, even if they can't articulate exactly what feels off. That subtle dissonance erodes trust before a single word is read. This is why you build purpose and positioning first. Then, and only then, do you design. Let's break this down practically. Your logo is just a symbol. What matters isn't the logo itself. It's what that symbol comes to represent over years of consistent behavior. Your color palette triggers psychological responses that have been studied extensively. Every color carries associations. Choose colors that reinforce what your brand stands for, not colors you personally like. Your typography communicates personality before a single word is read. A sharp geometric font feels completely different from a rounded, playful one. And your imagery style sets the emotional temperature across every single touch point. The goal of a well-designed visual identity system is this. Someone should be able to identify your brand from a single piece of content, even if your logo isn't visible. That level of recognizability is not a luck. It's the result of relentless, disciplined consistency. Every time your brand writes a caption, sends an email, publishes a post, or creates a video, it has a voice. And that voice should be so consistent and so distinctive that your audience could recognize it without even seeing your name attached. Have you ever read a brand's tweet and immediately thought, that's so them? That's intentional brand voice working at its best. Here's the critical distinction that most brand guides get wrong. Voice and tone are not the same thing. Your voice is your personality. It's fixed. It's who you are. Your tone is how that personality adapts to different situations. A person can be warm and direct in personality, but their tone is different in a birthday speech versus a difficult conversation. Same person, same personality, different delivery. Your brand works the same way. To define your voice, start with 3 adjectives. How does your brand sound? And then, equally important, define 3 adjectives it absolutely never sounds like. Does this caption sound like us? Does this email feel like us? If the answer is no, it doesn't go out. Simple as that. Over time, this filter is what creates the brand voice people recognize and trust. Here's what separates brands that people feel connected to from brands that people merely use. Story, and specifically, the right architecture of story. Research confirms that the human mind processes narrative far more effectively than it processes data and statistics. Stories activate more regions of the mind simultaneously. They trigger emotion. And emotion is what drives action, far more reliably than logic ever does. But here's where most brands completely misunderstand storytelling. They make themselves the hero. We were founded on this belief. We've achieved these milestones. We stand for this. And the problem is, your customer doesn't care about your story. They care about their own story. The framework that fixes this comes from studying literally thousands of years of great narrative. Your customer is the hero. They have a problem, a villain, standing between them and where they want to be. Your brand is the wise guide to give them a tool, a framework, or a path to defeat that villain and reach their transformation. Think about every great film, every myth, every story that has ever moved you. The hero has a problem. A guide appears. The hero is transformed. Your brand is the guide, not the hero. When you build your brand story with this architecture, your content doesn't feel like marketing. It feels like someone finally understood exactly what your customer is going through. And that is the most powerful commercial force in existence. Brands don't earn trust through grand gestures. They earn it through an unbroken string of small, consistent actions, repeated over time until the accumulation becomes undeniable. Think about how trust works in real human relationships. You trust someone not because of one impressive thing they did, but because they showed up when they said they would, again and again and again. Brand trust works exactly the same way. The trust triangle has 3 sides. Consistency is the foundation. Your brand looks, sounds, and behaves the same way every single time a customer encounters it. Whether that's your YouTube channel, your Instagram, your emails, or a conversation with your team. One jarring inconsistency can undo months of carefully built brand equity. Consistency is not glamorous, but it is compounding. Credibility is the second side. Your content is accurate. Your promises are delivered. Your product does what your marketing says it does. Credibility is why we obsess over quality and accuracy on this channel. Because credibility, once lost, is nearly impossible to recover. And in the age of public reviews and social media, it can disappear in a single viral moment. Community is the third and ultimately the most powerful. The highest form of brand trust is not what you say about yourself. It's what your customers say about you to others. When you build genuine community around your brand, you create a team of advocates doing your marketing for free. Not because you incentivize them, but because they genuinely believe in what you built. Here's something I genuinely believe. We are living through the greatest era in history to build a brand. Not because it's easy, but because the barriers that once required enormous capital have collapsed entirely. You don't need a PR firm. You don't need an agency. You need a camera, a clear point of view, and the discipline to show up consistently in public. But here's where most people do mistake. They try to be on every platform simultaneously. They spread themselves thin, produce mediocre content everywhere, gain traction nowhere, and burn out in 3 months. The smarter approach, the one that consistently works, is to pick one platform where your target audience already lives and go deep there before expanding. The reason is simple. Algorithms reward consistent in category posting and social proof compounds. Once you build an audience on one platform, you have credibility that makes growing the next one dramatically faster. You create great content, which builds an audience, which earns trust, which allows you to launch products, which funds better content. And the flywheel accelerates with each rotation. Every piece of content you create is a permanent asset. It works for you 24 hours a day, long after the day you published it. Over time, your content library becomes the most valuable thing your brand owns. Brand value is a concept that transforms brand building from a creative exercise into a hard financial decision. And understanding it will permanently change how you allocate time and resources in your business. Here's the clearest way I can define it. Brand value is the premium value your name adds above and beyond what the product itself is worth. It's why an established name in a category can launch a mediocre product and outsell a brilliant product from an unknown brand. The name is doing work that the product alone cannot. It doesn't show up in your accounting, but it shows up in your pricing power, in your customer lifetime value, in your ability to raise funding, and in your ability to manage bad quarters that would destroy a business without a brand. It has 4 dimensions. Awareness is the entry point. Your name needs to exist in people's minds before anything else can happen. Associations are the feelings and attributes people connect with your name over time. This is where positioning and voice compound. Perceived quality is where trust becomes automatic. People assume you're good before they've even tried you. And loyalty is the ultimate destination. Customers who don't just return, but actively recruit others. Here's the test. If your product disappeared tomorrow, would your customers be devastated enough to actively demand its return, or would they just move on? The answer tells you exactly how much brand value you've built, and it's a question worth sitting with honestly. Let me save you years of wasted effort by walking through the 5 mistakes that silently destroy brand potential, even in businesses with genuinely great products. Mistake 1, starting with the logo. This is the most common. The logo is the last step in brand building, not the first. Build your purpose, positioning, voice, and story first. Then design. If you design before thinking, you get a logo in search of a brand. Mistake 2, copying. If your brand looks, sounds, and feels like everyone else in your category, you don't have a brand. You have a replica. And replicas compete only on price because there's nothing else to choose them on. Differentiation is not optional. It's the entire game. Mistake 3, changing too frequently. Brand value is built through repetition over time. Every time you rebrand, you reset the trust clock. Iteration is healthy, but constant reinvention signals insecurity, and customers sense it. Mistake 4, inconsistency across touchpoints. Your website sounds serious, your Instagram is playful, your emails are corporate. This fragmentation creates a brand that feels incoherent, and people unconsciously don't trust what they can't read consistently. And mistake 5, the most dangerous one, building a brand that you personally love but your audience doesn't connect with. Your aesthetic preferences are completely irrelevant. Your audience's emotional response to your brand is everything. The best brand builders are radically, almost uncomfortably customer-obsessed. They build what resonates, not what they find interesting. Here's the part that separates the people who build brands from the people who understand branding but never act on it. The roadmap. Most people leave videos like this feeling inspired, but confused about what to do first. This eliminates that confusion completely. Days 1 to 15 are your strategy foundation. Do not rush through this phase. It will feel slow. It might feel like you're not doing anything visible, but every shortcut you take here will cost you months later. Your why statement, your positioning, your audience definition, your voice adjectives, your brand story. These are the decisions that every subsequent action flows from. Get them right. Days 16 to 30, bring it to life visually. Design your logo. Choose your color palette. Pick your typography and write a simple 1-page brand style guide. It doesn't need to be elaborate. It needs to be the reference document that keeps everything consistent, especially once other people start creating content for your brand. Days 31 to 60, show up. This is the most straightforward phase, and the one where the most people quit. Post consistently on one platform, a minimum of 3 times a week. Every piece of content goes through your brand voice filter before it goes out, and respond to every single comment. Community is built in the replies, not in the posts. Days 61 to 90, build trust infrastructure. Start a community space, a newsletter, a Telegram group, a Discord. Collaborate with 2 or 3 creators who share your positioning and audience. Collect your first testimonials and publish them. By day 90, you will not have a famous brand, but you will have a real one with identity, audience, and the compounding foundation for everything that comes next. Here's the truth about brand building that separates the brands you admire from the businesses you've never heard of. It's rarely about talent. It's rarely about funding. And it's almost never about luck. The brands that win are the ones that know exactly why they exist, who they exist for, and how they want the world to feel about them, and then show up for that belief consistently, without wavering, long after the excitement of starting has worn off. You now have the complete framework. 5 pillars, a trust triangle, brand value defined, 5 mistakes to avoid, and a 90-day roadmap with every step laid out. One thing I want from you before you close this video: write your brand's why statement in the comments. We exist a blank, so that blank, it takes 60 seconds. But it is the most important sentence you will write for your brand, and I want to see what you're building. If this video gave you clarity, which I genuinely believe it did, share it with one person who needs it. Every person we reach is one more person who builds something real instead of something average. Before you go, I want to say something that isn't on most YouTube channels. This channel exists because there's a massive gap between what traditional education teaches and what it actually takes to build something in the real world. This channel teaches you to think, build, and own. Every video we make is engineered to close that gap with accuracy, depth, and zero fluff. If this video gave you something valuable, something that moved the needle even slightly on how you think about brand and business, then do one thing. Share it. Not for us, for the person in your life who's trying to build something but doesn't know where to start. One share could genuinely change someone's trajectory. Subscribe so the next lesson lands in your feed the moment it's live. And drop your why statement in the comments. I read every single one. See you in the next one.